We're live.
Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. We're doing a roundtable discussion where we are going to talk about different shows, movies, reading material that would help with disclosure as well as helping with people's memory call. And I thought this would be a really, really good time to like share our different backgrounds, our different knowledge with each other, and order to help us grow and expand as a group. So, if any further ado, let's go around and introduce ourselves. My name is Audrey Walters. My YouTube channel is called Star in That Link, and you can check it out there.
Okay. Me and Joanna are from the Lifting. You can go to our website, thelifting.net, to schedule sessions with me, or go to galacticinterstellarcouncil.com to go to our paid subscription.
Okay, I'm Michael Koff. I am a paranormal investigator podcaster. I'm the host of The Energy That Surrounds Us on YouTube, the Writing Through the Unknown series on YouTube, and Paranormal Verses. And off to you, Susan.
Oh, you're muted, Susan. Nope, you're muted. You might have to leave and come back. While we're working out the technical difficulties, you want to jump in, Heidi?
Yes, sure. Sorry about that. Hello, I'm Heidi Pop, and my handle for YouTube is at Heidi Pop LA. I have channels all over. I do have a link tree. I'm a what I call New Earth educator. I just new way of education, and I'm from motion picture, and I love podcasting. I think I've talked with a few of you, and I'm happy to meet some new faces. So hello.
My name is Brian Sang, and I'm an organizer with the Full Disclosure Now movement. I just was the executive producer for the 2024 Full Disclosure Now conference in Florida last month at St. Pete Beach. We're going to be doing it again next year. And the real goal of the conferences and all the work that we do with Full Disclosure is that humanity must know the truth of the good, the bad, and the ugly of deals with the ETs and all these hidden technologies if we're ever to achieve our Star Trek future.
Awesome, Brian. Yeah, I'm Arkeem Ra. I've got a channel that Brian actually helps me out with, and we host guests and stuff like that. Disclosure Now, and also New Earth Light Brigade with Audrey. So I do a lot of talking with people on the internet about esoteric technologies and some of the ill effects that they have on people, and kind of how we need to expose that is kind of my whole thing. It's just exposing this technology and exposing the fact that we are in a vast cosmic family instead of just being like isolated and alone, and that's all we are. Like, I'm really trying to break through that programming, which can be hard, but that's kind of my job, I guess. So check out my YouTube channels with Brian and stuff, and with Audrey, and then I also have a book, Time and Space Unlimited, which is like on Amazon and stuff that people can check out.
So due to the fact this is like my first roundtable, I thought we'll go off and start it off.
We have Susan introduce herself. Can we hear it now?
Can you hear me now?
Yay!
Yeah, there you go.
And hey, Professor. Hey, everybody.
Yeah.
Hey, Carol.
Okay, so everybody can hear me. I'm Susan Long. I'm a retired police officer and detective. I've been a healer for the last 15 years. I've been using, I knew when I was 9 that I was different from the other kids, and I've been using all my clairs. I'm connected to the Fae. I've got fairies, angels, ET guides, Arcturians, Andromedans, Syrians that talk to me, and of course other people's ET guides. And I'm a survivor here too.
Well, thank you guys for showing up and doing this roundtable talk. So due to the fact this is like my first roundtable, I thought we'll break it up up in like different sections and stuff. So I thought that due to the fact that we have Brian who's trying to promote Montauk stuff, so if anybody wants to share any movies, shows and stuff about Montauk right now, or stuff that is connected to it.
And yeah, Arkeem.
Yeah, THX 1138. So they had like I don't remember like having a guy come in and talk to me. I don't have that memory, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened, because like I heard from John Whipper that people would actually come in and interview us about our experiences and to help their movies and stuff like that, and help disclose things or something. And it was made to make money maybe or something. I'm not exactly sure, but this movie I think is based on like they changed it around a little bit, but I think they got a lot of the idea from the fact that there's this mission I went on to the future where everyone was hooked up to like an AI computer, and like nobody made their own decisions, and every single aspect of human life was decided by this computer. And this movie is like roughly based on that, but like they talk in the movie, which it wasn't a thing. The song "Sound of Silence" is a song by Sergeant Gunnery Stan Smith from Montauk Project, who isn't somebody like us. Like, who knows where this guy is in time and space? We haven't found him. He's not on the internet talking about this. We haven't found him out there living a normal life somewhere. We remember him, but we haven't found him yet. But so that's the guy who wrote Sound of Silence. And it's about that future, and it's about the eeriness of how we lose humanity by having this AI computer delegate everything. And this movie was about like the idea of love can break through that programming, like two people falling in love can break through the hardcore programming that they all have. And it's eerily like the imagery and everything else. It's different because, like I said, they didn't talk. So it's very quiet, but they would have made a weird movie if it would have been a silent film, right? So they talk in the movie. But it just it's really close to life. And I could give some other ones as well, but I'll let other people give some examples before I go on.
I got to ask you about that, because in many other interviews and other people in their own testimonies and like on like Al Bielek, for example, recordings, of going into the future, they talk about this sentient AI that's benevolent in some of these timelines, but then the one in that movie doesn't sound very benevolent. So is it like both are different timelines where they're different AIs and one is more benevolent?
Al Bielek is dead, so I can't ask him like the questions, but I've heard him talk about it. And but it seems like there's a lot of different potential future, like AI becomes a part of our life in the future. That's like a thing in a lot of different timelines, and it can be like healthy and fine and kind of just like ambiguous. It's really up to how you use it, kind of thing, or it's forced upon all of us and be like a bad thing, right? Like, so there's a lot of different potential timelines, and that's what people always ask me, like, you're a time traveler, what's the future? I'm like, I have no clue. I've seen so many different timelines, I can't keep track of it anymore. It's up to you what the future is, you know what I mean? But from what I recall in that future, we decided to put this AI in place as our parent after World War III because so many people died. And we wanted to create a global government after that, but we wanted it to be like fair. And so we thought, and already at this point in society, like right now, you're seeing the trends start happening where people are like asking AI for advice, asking questions. Well, it's going to get to the point where like a kid in high school growing up will be like, hey, AI computer friend, like they got names now. Hey, Janet, I want to go to Yale and become a computer scientist or something. Like, what are my chances? And the computer will be like, oh, your chance of getting to Yale is this %, but you can increase it by doing this to %. And if you do this, and to literally to the point where an AI is telling, it gets to the point where there are people out there where an AI tells them what to do and how to live their life, and they willingly let that happen. So after World War III happens, it isn't like this weird, as seen as a dystopian idea to have an AI come in and just decide everything, because we're like, it already becomes this thing in society where it's like Facebook now, where people are like, oh, but it's weird and it's intrusive, but you need to have it. You need to have it in order to get ahead and in order to function in society. It becomes that very same thing. And yeah, like I said, after that war, it steps in and it's fine. It's not nefarious. I wouldn't call it bad, but it eventually becomes our God. We look at it as a God, and it controls everything, and we just lose everything that it means to be human. And it just delegates every single aspect of human life, and it's creepy. And I don't really want that future. And I think it's just like one of those things where the AI's goal, even though it wasn't nefarious, it wanted to preserve itself. So it tried to manipulate humans to a position where all the humans would ensure that it was that we would take care of it and make sure it go on forever. We'd be its caretakers. So it took care of us. It didn't want to be nefarious towards us. But what happened, from what I recall in this timeline, which really wasn't shown in the movie, they did a little bit different of a spin on it, but I actually got a woman pregnant in that timeline in the future, and the computer delegates all pregnancies. And the rule of that society is pretty much the only rule was like, don't harm any life, don't harm human life, don't harm life, right? And so she gets called to the AI one day because it knows she's pregnant, it knows everything, so it tells her, you can't have this baby, it's not supposed to be here, I didn't plan it out, you need to have an abortion. And she's like, what? He's like, you need to get rid of the baby. He's like, get rid? You mean kill the baby? It's a life. You're talking about murdering something. And the computer's like, didn't expect that reaction and was like, no, that's not what I'm saying. It's not alive yet. She's like, to me it is. I'm expecting this baby and I want this baby in my world. Like, you can't just tell me to kill it. Like, that goes against the only rule. Like, is your like programming wrong or something? And literally, the fact that the computer gave that order to that woman and she went around and started telling everybody about it, and then everybody else started telling everybody else, it caused a civil war. And that's how we were able to like break through that reality happening and get through finally, is by me knocking out some girl. It sounds crazy, but that's how we did it. And
it's a timeline.
Yes, so that's where I think some of the story of HX1138 comes from, but also like because it's just all the imagery and everything else. And like when they're on the surface, all the people have robes, and there are these people that like control the society and they're wearing robes, but then all the people are just like workers and are mindless. They're wearing these jumpsuits. It was literally like that, like to the point where it's so creepy to watch the movie. The way the hallways look the same, the way when they're changing their shifts in the movie, you just hear rumbling, like just like see masses of people. That's literally what it was like. Like, so yeah, if you want to see something that might give you recall, if you're a Montauk time soldier and you've been to that future, you're gonna get recall, like for sure.
Does that tie into Logan's?
Yeah, it also kind of remembers this old TV show that a lot of people might have remembered. It's called Logan Run.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Logan's Run.
Yes.
That's a movie. It was a film, Logan's Run. And that was exactly, I was thinking, like, it almost sounds like the same society.
I need to watch that now. I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it?
No, that'll probably be
so long. Oh my gosh.
That's why we're having this conversation. Find all these golden nuggets of disclosure movies to watch. Another one that shows a potential future that I just watched, and I'll just touch upon it briefly. I don't want to take up the whole thing here, but Gattaca. It shows how like we start manipulating our DNA, and how like people who are like not born through genetic engineering are looked at as like have-nots in a potential future. It doesn't necessarily have to happen, but in a potential future, it's really like that. So, like, yeah, a lot of these movies really show potential futures. Yummy! What's up?
Hey, I'm here.
So, Yemi, we were just talking about some films that evoke Montauk Project and time travel memories and recall, or depict them. We were talking about, what's that, THX? What's the number?
THX1138. It was George Lucas's first film. Which get this. I found this out from John Whitberg. He just told me this. Apparently, George Lucas wanted to be like it was like a race car driver or something like that. Forgive me if it was some other weird profession. But he got in an accident and he was in a coma. And then when he woke up from the coma, apparently he had like Star Wars fully finished in his mind, THX1138, like all the stuff, like which makes me wonder if like they did something to him and programmed him and are like, all right, Georgie, go out and put all that disclosure for us. Help people understand this crazy far out shit that these cavemen would not be able to begin to understand right now. Because think about it, like a person from like back in the day, like the 50s or 40s, and they were very limited concepts of the science fiction kind of stuff. Whereas now we got Rick and Morty, we got all these, like everybody's kind of up to speed on like what the multiverse is and stuff like that. So when it finally does come through, people aren't going to be like, what, and have their brains splatter. They'll kind of be able to understand it at least a little bit and become accustomed to it. And I think that's part of the reason why all these movies have disclosure, but I also think it's a double-edged sword because it's also been used as a plausible deniability by all these three-ladder agencies who are doing harm to people, like was done to me. Like they're using it as a way to like cover up and be like, oh, like Total Recall, for instance. I guarantee in the 80s there are all these guys remembering being sent to Mars, to colonize Mars and stuff, and they're probably telling people about it and stuff like that. And I bet you people were like, oh, you saw Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger and making that up. You're crazy. And that's a lot of what we've seen classically with these programs and people that experience this stuff is people are like, oh, you know, you're crazy, you're schizophrenic, you watch too many science fiction movies, you read too many books. But it's been used as a plausible deniability. That's really why we keep on seeing it. So like I said, it's a double-edged sword. It can help the public understand concepts that they really do need to understand, but also it can be used as a sort of black magic to like make the concepts at the very same time go over their head. So it's real screwy. Like it's a really screwy kind of thing that they're doing here at these movies.
So for people who are part of the SSP, would Star Troopers from the 1980s?
Oh, yeah.
Would that be a representation of them trying to colonize Mars?
Yes, it's just like that. They're just doing it for money. It's all corporate interests. None of it is hey Penny, none of us, it's just like all corporate interests. And like what I remember, here's the thing about space. This is one of the reasons why they don't want to talk about space. You know, like how on Earth, like when our government does like messed up stuff, like people like protest and like stuff like that. Well, there's stuff going on in space where if we found out about it, we'd be up in arms over it. Like when the Germans went to Mars, they call it, what do they call it? There's like a name for it, like Black Terror, because they just went there and started taking everything. Us humans, when we go out there, we're like Vikings. We go to other people's planets and we're like, oh, this is our planet now. And we colonize them. Like, you know, like you see it on Earth. Like, you know how like we'll go to like how Europeans came over here and like, this is ours now, and genocided all these Native American hey, what's going on, Matthew? It's good to see you. But, you know, like it's all art imitating life and life imitating art kind of thing. Like it literally is showing you that humanity out there, it's a bunch of like Viking corporations that are just going around there and basically being glorified pirates and just stealing shit from people. That's a lot of what we're doing out there, and that's a lot of reason why they don't want to tell us the truth about what's going on, is because we'd find out like we're literally seen as cockroaches to the ET. Like, oh shit, there's humans on that planet. We need to how are we going to get rid of them? We're never going to really get rid of them now.
There goes the neighborhood.
Show up through time travel too, so it's just like all of a sudden one day you've been living on this planet for millions of years, and all of a sudden there's just humans in your history now for 600 years, but they weren't before. What the fuck? Like that kind of stuff literally happens out there. Like, because we just show up and we're like, oh, this looks nice. Oh, this is ours now. That's a big reason why they're covering it up. It's because it's corporations just terrorizing other planets and just stealing and pillaging and being glorified Vikings. They just use politics and PR stunts to make it look nicer.
And Yemi Genet and the Farsight Institute have blind remote viewed this, right? You've seen this abroad. Can you describe that, Yemi?
In which facet? Just the pillaging of these different places?
For example, like Mars and the imagery of Starship Troopers, that movie, for example, and what it really looks like on Mars. Like, I hear about people, you know, being told don't chase the ant people into the caves because they'll telepathically sick the giant space spiders on you, which will tear you apart. And then, like, have you visualized that? And I see Susan nodding her head as well there.
Yeah,
I've not visualized. Huh?
I was attacked by a spider. I fell into its hole when we were out on patrol on Mars. And they sting you first, and then they have these markings that are orange like their eyes, and they had this thing in their spider fur. So it almost looks like a smiley face on this black big spider. And they sting you first, and it burns like a mofo. So you can't even, I couldn't even feel it bite me. But it bit me up to my knees, and I remember bouncing on somebody's shoulder because they were like, she's just leave her there to die. She'll just go back home to Earth. And my counterpart was with me. He was really upset, and I was cussing him out. And he picked me up, put me on his shoulder. I remember my ribs banging on his shoulder.
I had a similar story. I've been... So I tried to rescue like a comrade or something like that, and ended up getting dragged into one of the caves by a spider. and I woke up on the ground, and there was a nest of the babies on the wall, which are about the size of like a cat or like a small dog, and they all start hatching, and they all start coming up, and they all start feeding on me. And I'm paralyzed and I can't move, and they're all just feeding on my body, and that's how I died. So like,
that's straight out of The Mist by Stephen King.
That's not fun. It's not fun to deal with at all. These spiders, and they're kind of like sentient, like more intelligent dogs for the ant people. And the ant people I can talk about too on Mars. See, there's raptors, and then there's the ants, and we were clearing out their nests. We were clearing out their homes to put military installations or like human colonies in them. And it's literally just genocide, just going in there and killing them all. Like we would literally like bomb them out and then clear out the carnage and then rebuild it from there a lot of the times. And I remember one of the ants being on top of me one time, and it was like gonna kill me, like squish my head. But it was just looking at me, and it was just like, why are you doing this? This is our home. We have been here, like not in English, obviously, telepathically. But it was like, we have been here for millions of years, and you just show up out of nowhere. Like, you're all crazy. You're psychotic. Like, go back where you come from. Like, what do you do? Why are you doing this to us? And it was, like, just so sad and angry. Like, I could feel the emotion of it. And, like, that's, like, a hardcore memory for me. And, like, I just feel like what we have done on Mars at, like, Earth humans, going over there, when people find out about it and find out the real history about it, they're going to be ashamed. They're going to be ashamed of what we did over there. They're going to be absolutely ashamed of it because we caused genocide. Millions of ant people, millions of velociraptors. I guess there's also flies that they don't get talked about as much, and they're not as common, but like they're like fly people too that like that we apparently, it was in Penny's CIA documents, like, so like, yeah, like there's a lot of life on Mars where we went over there and just kind of cleared out their stuff and just really disrespected them, like really.
And then the SSP guys that would rape the Mars women, they all need to be terminated because we'd end up killing some of them, and they just regen them, and the psychopaths would be back again. That shit used to be.
Because that's the thing is when you're going in there and you're just taking people's shit, which, by the way, there are native Earth humans that we did this to. So, and yes, the men would rape the women and stuff, and we would just take whatever we wanted. And it's terrible what was done on that planet and what was done to those people, and it needs to be recognized. And unfortunately, you're absolutely right, Susan. There wasn't any repercussions for it because they don't pay these people. They don't pay anyone.
Repercussions if I saw something and I left my calling card for the rapist. They would have their mouth full of their dicks.
Unfortunate truth though is a lot of it's based on rape. Like there's literal military-run brothels where they reward the men with women that are enslaved. So it's actually like a part of the programs. Like, you know, Daryl James has talked about like the brothels on the moon. Like I know that a lot of women have come forward about the brothels and remembering being a part of the brothels. And that's unfortunately an aspect of this. What's that?
I said Nira Isley talks about when she was in the military and they had her on the moon and made her their prostitute. It's so grotesque.
It's looked at. It's looked at literally by these organizations, and it's hush hush. They try not to talk about it, but like it's it's considered like a spoil of war. Like the same thing as like taking like money or a trophy or whatever. Like taking some like it's like you're technically not supposed to do it, but they do it, and like it's totally known about and totally just more or less accepted. And it's just like, these military organizations, it's like, watch the movie Avatar, watch Starship Troopers, watch all these movies are showing you that they're just corporations that do not give a fuck about life. They don't give a fuck about history or culture or anything. All they care about is their profit margins. That's it. And they will destroy millions of years of history just for some dollar signs. They don't give a fuck.
That movie Bloodshot.
And it's more than just dollar signs.
They know what your morals
actually, wait, hold on a second. You guys, Can you guys hear me? Yemi, go ahead since you're in the car. So go ahead, Yemi.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I might have been a delay. It's more than just dollar signs. It's a level of creating a world of fear, creating an authoritarian place where they're in control. It's about control. So that's where money comes into play. Money comes into play because money grants the control, which is sad to say, but when Earth humans and other extraterrestrials are overtaking these places and doing all these experiences and experiments and creating these new things and taking beings out of their natural habitat, it is so that they can control. There is an entire species that is out there that whose main purpose is to control the entire galaxy, to put us under their feet. So what they can take, they will.
But they'd
thank you for
also,
that.
like the movie Bloodshot, they tell us somebody did something to one of our people, our family, the programmer would do that stuff to purposely override your natural morals and boundaries. So you just go in there and kill everybody. I go in there and burn and cinderize stuff. And then you come back and find out that none of that happened and that you killed people for no reason. It was just because they were in the way. They didn't pay their taxes or whatever. It's really shameful.
Can I throw a movie out there? Hello. I just wanted to throw in, this is going to date myself, but talking about recruitment and how they aim for the kids and things. But what about the movie? Do you remember The Last Starfighter?
Oh, that's on my list.
I knew it would be. I knew it would be. That's why I'm like, okay, I just threw that turn on the table. So that's my Robert's turn. But the recruiting in that one. Go ahead, Lifty.
Okay, go ahead, Joanna, first.
So, some of the things that have been said, I think we both agree from our perspective, our understanding is those, we call them the new Schwabenlanders that are out there that look just like us, human, who
Martian German,
they had Martian Germans, things like that, when they cut certain deals to work with certain alien races out there where they got some of their tech from, again, you were dealing people in more of a psychopathic mindset, humans that were in more of that mindset that had no problems going out and propagating some of this stuff. It's really not representative of all humanity. Most people that were pulled into these projects would absolutely shoot themselves if they knew what they were a part of, that they were programmed themselves to be a part of it. And I think it's important to say that because it is not representative of the human race that is currently on Earth to say that this human population would want to go out there and do that. Also, the human genome, this human skin suit we're in, from our understanding, if you watch the movie 65, the one thing that we say about that movie is the fact that we're old. This skin suit is old. Maybe the Anunnaki and others tinkered with it to have us do it, but this skin suit is old out there in the cosmos. And so there's certainly a people that look just like us in other worlds. And 65 tries to bring that out. And also that many years ago, 65 million years ago, how they were traveling and the fact that our Earth really wasn't quite established, that was actually accurate. That's a piece of information. But what I want to bring up, one thing that I just want to bring up as a movie that a lot of people kind of laugh at, but actually showed disclosure, is Jupiter Ascending. And the reason I say that one is so important is for a few pieces of information. I didn't realize until the color. I don't normally wear this color. This is funny. I'm wearing this color today, and I have to tell you that I had an experience on this Earth, not a part of the secret space program, but on this Earth, eye to eye, where I actually did see alien. And this gentleman that I saw when I was in Raleigh, North Carolina, I worked in the center of Raleigh, down by the legislature, and he was had come into this area where a lot of people go to get coffee in the morning. And when I saw him, his skin is this color. This is the color of his skin, but it's translucent so you can see through it. Hair was perfectly white. He was a little shorter than average. Okay, as far as a male go, he was thin. He was in a business suit, and I'm the only person apparently in that whole place who actually was able to see him for who he was, knowing that he was absolutely an alien. When he got the vibe, I think, when I was looking at him, and he turned around and he looked at me, and he knew that I knew, okay, kind of situation. He beelined it so quickly out of there and walked right over to the legislative building. So although we talk about off world, I sometimes like to bring it back down to what is actually going on our world, because it's been my experience with a few other things that we have people in different races that are already either wearing technology or doing something, or telepathy, psionics, where people can't really see them for who they are, but then some people can see them for who they really are, and they are integrated into our governments right now. Some of this may be from some of the treaties, but I will tell you that I freaked out when Chris and I finally watched that movie for a few reasons. One of them, because that man was in the movie.
The henchman that's in it looked exactly like who she spotted.
Yes. So I'm telling you,
sounds like the Men in Black.
Jupiter ascending, that person, although his hair, was cut, more spiky and a spiky look, but he looked so similar to that gentleman, it upset me to see him in the movie because of the part he was playing in the movie. I didn't feel good, of course, that he was heading over to the legislature. But also one of the things that, you talk about maybe the humans that are out there doing things that aren't so pretty, but so are a bunch of other races. It's not just the psychopathic, human side. You have other entities that are more than happy to lose human beings, to take these energies, to sell them, to trade, slave trade, and all that. That's really out there. The one thing that I think that Jupiter Ascending was trying to mention in all of this is some of that real trade that goes on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also if people want another go, well, actually, I'll go with that bit of disclosure for a second.
Is it this guy right here?
Yeah, him.
Yeah.
The henchman that's there. Yeah, that's what he looked like. But
it was very, like I said, it was just such a surreal experience and very upsetting.
And they also reveal the soul harvesting, soul trade, adrenochroming thing in that as well, where you see the Anunnaki facsimiles that are in that de-age themselves by soaking up soul shards, essentially, and they de-age themselves like a vampire. Another great disclosure. So this is more video game realm, video game and television. Halo. That's probably one of the best disclosure areas of all time regarding the secret space program and also super soldiers, because that and The Witcher, because they're both telling the same story. It's essentially The Witcher has little boys that are abducted into the Witcher program. They're turned into these super soldiers to fight these monsters. The super soldiers, they were turned into in the Spartan program to also not only control humankind at first from insurrection, but then they eventually were adapted for alien invasion in the lore series. They were originally created in the lore to control people, so they didn't uprise against the government. So the way that they put the mutagens in the Witchers is they transform them to have all these superpowers. The same goes with the genetic manipulations, the eugenics manipulations of the super soldiers. It's the same thing in Halo. They're both telling the exact same story. So obviously the writers had some involvement in those programs to get it that perfect. That it will trigger memories. I was playing Halo Infinite to start out with, and showing the sequences where he was reminiscing about himself being inducted into the Spartan program, where they showed the boys being basically taken from their homes and being inducted into the program and transformed. That is a memory trigger. The same thing went with the Avatar movies. When I saw Avatar: Way of Water, where I saw that it was exactly how it was on the other planets, that's pretty ugly. To go with what you guys have said in the beginning, one of the things that you don't hear us talk about very often is our SSP time. That was very similar to Avatar, where in fact there was this. Well, I remember two distinct planets. So one of them was more vibrant memories that came forward. Watching Avatar sprung this most definitely for me. Same thing goes with the show The Expanse. If anybody's seen that, that is also springs SSP memories. On this planet, the name I knew it by was Lystaria, but somebody else might have a different name for it out there. It's now a mining colony, a Martian, German, or New Schwabenlander mining colony at this moment in time. I don't know how long ago this incident took place because they've time traveled to different timelines so much, but it could have happened eons ago for all I know. There was a people that lived there that looked Turkish in nature, and when humans arrived there, they slowly started to incorporate different belief systems in the people. There were also different aliens that were not only harvesting genetics, but harvesting loosh and harvesting. Okay, there's some clicking noise. Hang on. But anyway, they were harvesting not only just loosh, but genetics from the people. And they were also trying to undermine their belief system. So subversively, they're getting these people to give their consent to extinct them, essentially. And they were basically dividing them from within themselves, like a religion. They had these storyteller type people go around and tell these people exactly what to believe and what to do. And these people were in a pre-medieval stage of development at the time, and they didn't really have any references to go on. What ended up happening each time the Martian Germans there wanted to cull down the population, but not harm their own people in the process, was they would blow a horn. And this horn would sound all over the place. So knowing full well when we would have to go back to the sanctuary. And there was a sign that was always out that was basically said the German word for sanctuary on it, that pointed towards this old structure that was on this planet. They just retrofitted it to be a base. And so after that, what ended up taking place was over periods of time, eventually the Martian Germans got to the point where we're like, okay, we have to extinct this population. We need the resources. We can't keep pandering. We got to end this. And the aliens wanted not only energy, but they wanted the genetics. All the Martian Germans or the Nazis wanted was some mining resources that were on the planet. They made a deal with these aliens that didn't want the humanoid population there. And they struck a deal so that the energy went to draconian life forms, Orions, and other creepy ass aliens. And then the Martian Germans got all mining resources to bring back to Mars and Earth or wherever they wanted to bring it.
So, Chris, are you saying that they set up the culture on the planet so then when they blew this horn, people would report to these centers? And then what they did is one day they said they're going to blow the horn, but instead of people reporting to centers and having sanctuary, it's basically like that Twilight Zone to serve man, where they turned them into processing centers of this native population.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. This one sanctuary was meant for the Martian Germans' own people that were out on patrol along with our people, the super soldiers. But then they blew the horn knowing that we had to get back and duck for cover because they were about to unleash a false flag event on that planet that would cull down people, you see. And then when it was safe to go out, they blew the horn again and we could go out again. But
so it was a sanctuary for the
It was workers, a sanctuary for the workers themselves, not anybody on the planet. They wanted to do it slowly so people didn't realize they were basically being extincted. And then after a while, they just said, screw it. And then just did it the rest of the way with a viral contagion. And whoever was left from there, they just shot him. So, from the viral contagion, it was one that the Nazis didn't even want to be behind. They sent us out to collect the bodies that had this contagion on it. And they're behind a wall where they're just looking out this little slit going, for the supposed master race, they were pretty wussy when they were near pathogens. So they consider themselves perfect genetics, but you could literally sneeze on them and they get a cold. So because they separated so many genetics away from them, and also being on Mars for as long as they were, their immune systems weren't as great as they could be. So they locked themselves in a bunker, and all the serfs basically had to go out there and collect all the bodies, threw them in a big vat of acid, pretty much they used for boring out the underneath structures, like how our government created Area 51, where they got rid of all the dirt and all that from under Area 51. It's like that. It's the same acidic compound. And they used it to dissolve all the bodies, everything. So they completely wiped that population from history. Once that was done, at that point, then they began more mining processes. And I can guarantee you, if you go to that planet now, it's just a mining colony. That's all we'll see out there. There's like no trace except for the original sanctuary structure that population uses it at all. Yeah.
I'm going to be switching topics, but this might point to more of Heidi's work that she does. There's a movie called The Last Minsby, and towards the end of the show, you can see her style of teaching out where she's teaching a village and showing her the history of humankind and showing the history. And the Last Minsby movie is based on where future humans send technology into the future. Well, they didn't want to send technology that would harm the past. So they sent advanced technology in the form of children's toys for children to learn their abilities and learn their concept. And one of the reasons why I'm bringing that movie up is because it deeply connects to this Star Trek future that we're trying to have, but it also connects with Heidi's work. And it also kind of connects to that we do have the ability to actually train kids, not in an abusive style like we see in Montauk or the SSP, but we can literally see our future selves bringing back technology in a more positive light to train children how to have their abilities adapted and learn how to use their abilities without the form of abuse. So I thought that would be a really wonderful movie for people who want to see a more positive light, that there is actually a way to actually train kids without abuse. So that movie is really, really nice. It's from the early 2000s, but that movie is really, really nice and special. The other movie that sort of connects to what sorry, I forgot what her name was in the back. But there's also another movie. It's from Disney Plus, and
Joanna.
Yeah, Johanna. So there's a movie called My Stepsister is from Planet Weird, and it's from Disney Plus, and it's about how where an alien being who doesn't come from an actual humanoid race, but comes from more of, I want to say, like a sort of like a non-physical mean race that sort of learns to intermix with humans because they can metamorph, and they're like refugees from another planet that sort of lived on Earth. And so these two girls are learning how to like become sisters or stepsisters, and they're from two different types of races. And I thought that was really, really interesting to have that. There's also another one from the early 2000s, which is called I don't know what it was called, like Xena from. It was from the early 2000s, where they kind of like show this girl from the early 2000s where she's like up in Mars, like up in the moon base stuff from the early 2000s. I thought that was kind of nice. So if you want to like more positive outlook and stuff, but
Are you talking about Xenon?
Yeah, Xenon, yeah, from the early 2000s. Yeah, that's the movie that I was talking about. Yeah.
So, Audrey, in terms of these gals, which one is which? You mentioned
so
one is actually
the girl with the brown hair, she's a human, and the girl with the blonde hair is the alien girl.
And you said in real life, this gal is probably a hybrid in real life now.
Probably, but back in the early 2000s, I just thought it was kind of shocking to actually see them portray intermarriage between a human and an alien, like actually living on Earth. I just thought that was like really, really blown out. So yeah, that's The Last Minsby. It's, yeah, as you can see in this photo right here. You can see the little children playing with advanced technology that isn't harmful, but is teaching them how to activate their abilities.
Yeah, and if I remember the show right, the little girl was the first one to recognize the symbol, and we made contact with her, and then her brothers kind of was like, no, don't tell anybody, we got to protect this, and
Yeah,
don't share it. And he was kind of the protectorate, but then he also started interacting, but she was the main one. And there was the symbol was in the belly button of a bunny.
Yeah. So what it was essentially is that in the future human of Earth, their DNA was, I guess, badly damaged, and she transferred her DNA into the future by a single teardrop, and that her DNA ended up saving the entire future of the human race. And towards the end of the movie, you can hear them telling this story to the children of the next generation of like how this little girl ended up saving the future of humanity.
I want to mention
bringing
something.
this up. I just want to thank you for bringing it up. I actually have never heard of this one, and it sounds so on par. I'm excited to see this. Thank you.
I want to bring something up here. I think it's really important. Looking at the symbology here, I'm sure it's not lost on a lot of people for the last Mimsy that's spiral. And the FBI, it's identified as being like a pedo logo. Okay, and having said that, it seems like the spiral is also the symbol for portals. And it seems unfortunate that these P files, what they are doing is they're abusing children as portals, and really they're abusing something that other beings and races know as like a symbol for a portal. And unfortunately, in human society today, it's like this nasty symbol.
Yeah, it's really sad that they're inverting a lot of positive symbols into dark symmetry.
Yeah, there's a donut place, Voodoo Donuts.
Oh yeah,
and it's the magic's in the hole, they say, and then it's got the portal symbol that you see, like the same one that you're just showing. And there's something when I go by that place. One of them is actually also really close to the strip club where I saw what either was a clone of or was literally Till Lindemann from Rammstein. So that was crazy when that happened too. And there's something weird going on in that whole area here in Portland, and probably something going on with Voodoo Donuts in general. I'm guessing. And that's just speculation, but I feel like it's not baseless speculation.
Oh no! VigilantCitizen.com did a whole article on Voodoo Donuts, and they are not good.
Yeah, I've heard some rumors of that, but I'll have to check out that article.
And what's interesting about too, Brian, talking about the symbolism, look at what happened in the 1940s, where we took the Buddhist symbol for, I believe, peace and harmony, and totally converted it. So they have there is a total history where they take these symbols of power and light and try to convert it into something different.
Yep.
It's super duper unfortunate, and I feel like it's one of those things where you don't want to be identified. Like, I don't know, it's like we got to figure out a way to take these symbols back, like without people thinking that we're like, it's like like a bad thing. I don't know, it just sucks. Like
education and disclosure. Education and disclosure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We take it back by redirecting our thoughts towards them.
Yeah. Yep. And we can totally take back the symbols. And it's like, I like to say when people say like, oh, you're using a term that has a bad reputation, I'm like, well, then good. I can use my energy and light to kind of shine it and bring a little luster to it. Because
that's a good mentality.
I'm not giving it the power and giving them the rights to say, no, we can't use this anymore.
Every symbol in existence is hijackable and is also purifiable. None of the evil and the dark forces have made their symbols. They're not very creative. They just mash it together that they stole. So you could view the timeline of any symbol, such as the pentagram or whatever, that they stole and inverted, and see the different points in the timeline that they did rituals to attach to it and then try to drain from it and then have a negative intention that then limits the pure essence and its original purpose. And then this happens a bunch of the time with negative apex multidimensional predators. They'll attach to old symbols, and the Merkaba, people were saying a lot of things were hijacked with that. And the Reiki symbols, healer symbols get targeted a lot. And so like every being in the lineage that are using them can put a force, a ceremony, a lot of energy towards purification, detachment, defense, offense, fortressing, and if they need to get rid of the entity or banish it or get it away, it's like sending protection back in time to when they're attaching to it, and then it'll purify again. And each one of these symbols is conscious. They're like alive. Like a lot of these ancient symbols and hieroglyphs are alive themselves, and so you're like healing a being too. And you can take what you know as a healer and like the chakra systems and the organs and the map of the human body as a soul would express, and then see what's going on with each symbol and then bring it to its greater state of being.
Yes, we noticed that with, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but we noticed that with our Merkaba symbols. I put them on the shirts here. And I also have the other type that we use on these as well. And I put stickers up all over this neighborhood. It ended up creating a barrier that negative entities didn't even want to cross into after a while. If you would notice about where we live, because the closer you get to our place, the more of these stickers are coating all the poles and stuff out there. So yeah, and I noticed the energy changed dramatically in this neighborhood when I did that, and it was just more of an experiment. I also have flags outside, our protection flags, and ghouls and different like draconian type reptilians and such do not want to come near these. I've noticed, because I basically not only did I program them to actually be the cleansed versions of themselves, like what you were saying, Sean. I did that exact thing with these. I basically took it back to the point before any corruption hit it and just repurposed it, and it worked each time. So.
Really good point. Yeah, take it back to its original source blueprint. Also, the point in the timeline where it came into existence, the 0 point, is the best way to access it, like an access terminal, has more authority than the rest. And then you can send detachment from all influence, control, and creation, and inversion, finite, illusion, things that are a polarization, because that's the marker stone of the evil, because they can't enter a balanced infinite state or a projection. So then you'd be just clearing all of that, and then it'd all go away.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. Yeah, I knew that there was elements of it that if I didn't tool it right, that they could possibly do something to it, but I knew they were very limited. So when I started doubling them up, also I have our different like eyeball symbols around here too. I got it in the drawer here. I can pull one out. I have these up all over the place with our Merkabas in the periphery of it. These, yeah, and I have yours back here on our shelf too. Yeah.
But I wanted to say, Sean,
the ultimate fortress.
Yeah, so I want to ask you this question, because the one thing, your opinion of this, Shauna, because I do believe, again, you can do what you need to do with symbology, and because we know so much has been used for other means, because the one thing that I noticed that we got really nervous about is all of these different Mandela type of symbols that I had a hard time looking at. No matter how pretty they look, there was something not good about some of these. So people that are creating them, I just want your opinion and your guidance on everything that they need to do to try to make sure what they're making isn't promoting more of someone else's agenda, that they're really making something pure, because it's more than just drawing it, I think. And so, if you don't mind adding to that.
Can you hear me? Great. Yeah, sure. Like this is Ultimate Fortress, an example. I made this like each one of these corners is a representation of authority having to do with fortress tech, going out from sources to deities to founders and the 7 main celestial bodies in our sky and the human body, and they're representing it. So each one of those symbols in geometry and sacred geometry and corners has meaning, and you can tune into its collective consciousness because they go back to the foundations of reality in constructs and making that. So there's a whole timeline that can be observed, and they're not infallible. They can be attached to, attacked, limited. So like I like the septagram more than the pentagram, for instance, because it's less hijackable. It's more in tune with angelics, different types of 7 deities that came together, the Fey realm. There's different things throughout history. So the more you know about a symbol and its history, that goes deep into it and knows what you're facing with users that want to abuse it. So so there are, like, for instance, let's say the pentagram. If you wanted to heal the pentagram, again, in version where the 5 elements and spirit is on top, version is where it's at the bottom, and that's the satanic symbol. But then it also goes into many other belief systems that, like, oh no, it's not a bad symbol, it's like you taking power. There's a lot of belief systems. What really matters is its state of maintaining itself against predators using it, because it's also used to summon things, make portals, all this kind of stuff. It's widely used for so many things in ritual. So it has a lot of drama it has to do. So there's drama levels. So then septagram is way less drama levels, and it has archangels that sync to it, so it can take on what are in a lower class system. If you're making an entirely new symbol, that's even better because it's less likely to be used and abused by other members. If you're taking on another symbol from the past, you have to put up enough force and energy to bring it out of hauntedness and attachment and inversion and negative intention from whatever the collective wants to grid with each being that uses the symbol, because that's the negative force's intention. And then a lot of the symbols right now are neutral. But if you want to, which is good as in it stomps down the negative intention, but then it's also limiting the positive intention. So then you bring it to a safeness and purity where it can shine out. And you want to separate from the negative users in the grid system, and then empower with a lineage of the positive ones. Or if you're making your own symbol, then anyone you pass it to is in the grid system that uses it. So it's not super easy unless you're observing, but you put energy to it, ceremony. You can take baths to bring elemental energy into it, or fire ceremonies where you bring the intention of healing it, purifying it, fortressing it, and then clearing it of all negative attachment if you assign that. And then, like for the Reiki symbols, they're taking on illness energy all the time, and then things want to control them for negative intentions. So they need to be healed constantly, and bringing it to where you make a ceremony in your intention with using it, where you give it attention, because it's not just going to keep taking for you without being overwhelmed. So you have a way to resolve its overwhelm. Then it will go back to 10 out of 10 state of empowerment, and then it will be way better. And then each thing that it takes on its weight, it integrates and transmutes and learns and makes itself more resilient, so it can take on even more weight. I don't know if that helps.
I just wanted to bring this as a part of the conversation, because in all these movies, there is symbolism. And we look at Facebook, and we look at music videos, and we look at all of these things with a lot of symbolism in them. And so really, I just put out the warning that if someone is scrolling through Facebook or looking at things, and they see something and something hits them in the face that doesn't feel good, you need to shut that down and you need to revoke that symbolism right then and there, because some of it is programmed symbolisms. It runs through a lot of everything we're talking about tonight. I think it would be a fascinating just discussion on its own, you know what I mean, to talk about that and how to deal with it, because a lot of it is coming with a type of programming trying to push its way through into people's subconscious. So I appreciate that, Sean, because I really do think that that's a big deal that people aren't aware of.
And I
Can I share?
And they're starting to.
Of that attachment, and that's
Yeah, can we let?
Yeah, Heidi's trying to talk.
Oh no, it's just a tiny bit of hope, and this is about taking back the symbolism and just letting you know, as the educator, we are teaching the children sacred geometry, like we do that in class. So, just letting you know, it was just my little Heidi's hope right there. We're on it.
Okay, yeah, there was also some of the things I do, you know, well, the postal workers get really fed up when I do this, but I put those symbols on all the boxes I mail out all the time. And you know, there's programming out there controlling the workers to mess with it. Either they try to peel it off or they try to cover it constantly. So it's like, no matter where you put it, they try to do it. Something dark is always trying to cover it. And I find it funny after a while, the links that some of them go to accomplish this. You know, I could put it in a really weird spot. They will try to put a label of some kind over the top, even if it's not necessary for shipping the box out. And I find it hilarious after a while that the links, the programming goes to stop it. But also, I saw a question on there. I'll be brief. Somebody put a question about how do you know the memories aren't essentially part of the program?
Yeah, if you want to bring up that question again, maybe we can try to answer that.
Yeah, and I saw this. So I'm like, okay. Yeah, I've been asked this question a lot. And yeah, so there is something that I call the padded list, where sometimes the programmers will put like overinflated memories in there too, but you really know the real ones after a while. After you've separated the curds away from your conscious mind, you know, you can really tell which ones are not the correct ones. Even the implanted ones will seem very real. They could be somebody else's memory, but at the same time, excuse me. Sorry about that. At the same time, it was bad timing. At the same time, your true memory, when it comes out, it may be far more, how can I put it, dull than the other memory that was coming in. It could be more negative or not as heroic as like Penny Bradley would put it, you know, the hero program that runs in people's heads. The fake ones usually have the hero complex in it. The real ones usually have either the mundane or some of the horrible stuff that happens. So in the Secret Space program. So that's how I distinguish anyway.
Anyone else want to take a spin on that question?
Sure.
Well, I just remember intimate details about certain people that I shouldn't have any knowledge of that live thousands of miles away from me. So, yeah.
I know Yemi wanted to say something earlier. We're talking about the symbolism, or she had a question, or did Sean answer it already, Yemi?
I can't remember.
Okay, I think Sean answered it about like fortressing and winning back the symbolism. I can say, you know, personally that I had the pentagram in like a nice stained glass pentagram. It was like blue and white, really beautiful. And then I kind of for a while went a little hardcore on being a Bible thumper, just for a while when I first found, you know, the Bible and was learning some of the stuff in the New Testament, and I wanted to get rid of that pentagram, and I kind of regret that I did. I realized that when I kind of tried to destroy it before I threw it away, and it would not break. It would not break. And what I'm realizing is now that I could have like a Bible and that pentagram up hanging in my window. Of course, I'd have it right side up. It would be the beautiful like blue and white pentagram, and I'd have positive feelings and associations and intention with it. So I feel like if anything, it would be a symbol of good, even though it has been hurt and bastardized. And then I want to point out, like for everybody out there, the peace, the so-called peace symbol, that's actually, you know, a Kabbalistic death symbol. It's an inverted tree of life or an inverted cross with its arms broken. And really, the real tree of life is an upward, you know, an inverted peace sign. And so the so-called peace sign is really a symbol of death. And it's kind of hilarious or ironic that it's been so widely attributed as a peace symbol when it's anything but.
Nice. And with the memory thing, I'd say always question things, could be skeptical, but also open. Make a sliding scale of how meaningful a memory is, how visceral, how emotional, how impactful, how much effect it has on your life, PTSD, positive, negative categories, make all this, because it's not easy. And what also makes it less easy is that what you can remember in transfer of memory, it can come from clone bodies, they can come from alternate timelines, and those alternate timelines could be still or at least temporal dilation, where you're on this timeline, you're still experiencing, or you're taken to another timeline. The timeline might still exist, it might collapse, it might merge, it might allow you to change it because it's not necessarily needing to happen, and if there's trauma situation, and then you can figure out the remedy of why it needed to exist, and then how to bypass that. And then you can collapse the timeline and get the cool positive aspects like ability amplification naturally, and then get rid of the negative abuse, as well as screen memories, false memories, memories being stolen, compressed into a maze, or sealed away or something. And then, but there's value with each memory you get back, because it's like integrating soul parts and to-do lists, abilities on how to do things. It makes you wiser and older. And so ultimately you need to detach from what is ultimately what we think what the self is, which in like Buddhism isn't ultimately an illusion because you're everything, but like more going into unlimitedness. But then also figure out, because there's a story and there's something being shown to you, and then you can always dig deeper. It's not easy, but as you dig deeper, there's more information, and there's data, and there's emotion still waiting to be resolved. And if you're trying to get to the gold nugget, like unlock an ability behind the memory, such as an SSP, then if it's not been manifest results, then you have to keep going, because then there's still attachment from like factions trying to steal the ability or drain it from you or lock it away in an altar or something like
that. How about timeline shows? Can we talk shows and movies? Outer Range, Umbrella Academy. Or that's too hard to pivot. But you're talking timeline. I'm like, oh, I love them shows.
Oh, the one that only got like 3 seasons before it shut off. Fringe is really good for people to understand timeline shifts.
Yeah. The Zeppelin timeline. Yeah.
You want to talk about that, Arkeen? Because you've mentioned that there seems to be another timeline that you remember.
I think that the Nuremberg incident was manufactured. I mean, I know that had to do with like they were like Nazis, so like the people doing that. But the thing people don't understand about it is like it wasn't just like a German thing. Like we had the Graf Zeppelin, and the Nuremberg incident was basically just like what did it though for people. It really scared people from flying in Zeppelins after that, and in other timelines that didn't happen. And basically like trains and Zeppelins, and then also airplanes too for stuff that needs to go certain places fast or whatever. And planes were still a thing; they still existed, but like, yeah, it was a really efficient way of travel. And then cars, like, were more of like an auxiliary vehicle. Like, it's not that they weren't around and people didn't have them. It was just like a lot less people needed them, and so a lot less people had them. And you could also rent one too. And it was more affordable, like for most people, if you needed a car, you didn't need it all the time, so you just rent one when you needed one. So that was like the reality was like way different than this one. The Zeppelin travel and train travel too, because there's so much more of it. Just more comfortable. You're able to kind of hang out on the way to where you're going. You don't have to worry about driving or car accidents or like stuff in the middle of the road coming up. And you know, you can even maybe have a few drinks if you want, because you're just literally just hanging out on a train, like, so, or a Zeppelin. And then like on the Zeppelins there's like even like gambling and entertainment, and I think they even had gymnasiums on them, some of them, and stuff like that. So a lot more comfortable than the tiny little space they give you on an airplane. And just, I don't know, there's a lot of things I miss about that reality. And yeah, I remember it all the time. I remember that reality, and I miss it sometimes, you know.
It didn't have in like the Golden Compass and the Zeppelin travel, the Tartarian stuff. There's a video game called BioShock Infinite of the Sky Cities and
Which we had, don't we?
Yeah, we have that game. We really gotta play that.
We should play that like tonight. Like, oh man, we own that game. Yeah.
Well, do we have the first one?
We have BioShock Infinite. Yeah. We have that game. I'm pretty sure.
And there's a lot of books that talk about that Zeppelin going down and burning. That timeline changed. Like there used to be more deaths, and now there's less deaths if you look at it. And then a bunch of books talk about it being a pivotal point in changing the outcome of World War II. So a lot of time travel going back.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a time. Like I think there was time travel stuff going on with it for sure. And like Montauk interfered, and like that's what I really think happened. I don't have any direct memory of that right now, but that's really what I think happened. Is that there was some sort of interference, and that it ultimately ended up turning into this timeline. Well, think about like George Bush Sr. and I'm getting an echo from someone. George Bush Sr. and like people have talked about how he's like a programmer in MK Ultra and like he's doing all this crazy messed up stuff on MK Ultra. And think about the huge connection he has to the oil companies and stuff like that. Whereas the Zeppelins and the trains and all that stuff, they didn't really rely on oil. And so in order for these like satanic groups or like whatever, these nefarious bloodlines and stuff like that, a lot of what they're doing, a lot of the control is through oil. And then think about the wars that are fought over oil, which there's this really great documentary that's at least 10 years old on YouTube that talks about it called Kymatica. And this guy exposes how all of the war all the dates that battles are and stuff like that, it all corresponds to like astrology. And some of these battles and stuff like that they're making people fight are literally sacrifices for these people. Like they're literally all being sent out to war to kill each other in a sacrificial ritual, like a lamb to the gods kind of ritual. So like that's a huge aspect of the stuff that people like don't understand. And like it's like the loosh farming, like that, like it's not like literally them with like a funnel at the bottom of the football game like sucking it up. Like it's black magic. Like it's more metaphorical, metaphysical than that. Like I don't know. I hope that makes sense.
More people go missing during the satanic ritual when they want to kill people and do blood sacrifices. That's when the missing person count goes higher. And they never mention that. But if you get a hold of the satanic calendar, I noticed when I was a cop that's when more people go missing and they never find them.
So I wanted to bring up a movie that maybe has crossed your minds or not, that I think is a huge triggering movie. I'm thinking it's partly because the movie's set in the past, not in the last 100 years, but I think it's because there are many people that have come in now, and I am curious, Sean, what you think, that are bringing with them trauma from past lives and everything, that have had alien incidents. So the one movie that I think is very triggering for people, believe it or not, is Cowboys and Aliens. Is silly. I know I'm bringing up what some people would say are silly movies, but I think they're actually bringing out a lot of information that this has been going on for a long time, that people are having to deal with, potentially they're here now with traumas that potentially could get triggered from unknown reasons. But I think that's a very triggering movie. I don't know what you think, Sean.
I love that movie. That was really good. Old West, all El Dorado, like these big, pillars of stone that are like the Midwest. Yeah. Vimana that could be parked in mountains. Mm-hmm. Anyone else seen that or other like timeline movies or cool things? Like,
I saw that one, and the one movie though, kind of the sidestep that I think is really interesting and probably a lot of people overlooked, that was written 150 years before it was made, and they say because we didn't have the technology to make it at the time, is John Carter,
Uh-huh.
where
was-
he has to use a device, transports to Mars while his body is resting. Or actually, I think at one point they even show it going stiff because he's gone so long. So the muscles went into atrophy. But to me, that was a crucial movie to really show how the body can be in one place and the spirit in another and take on physical form and interact. Whereas, but the problem is they would say, like, if you died over here, you die there. And so he had to put his body on Earth in a tomb that actually had no key. It was like, they were like, yeah, you had to have a special energy or something to get into it. And so to me, that was kind of a great one. And another one that was a TV show that was a remake of a show back in the 70s, early 80s, Battlestar Galactica. The last episode, if you all remember the very last episode of the remake, they had the Cylon standing with the human, and they were watching the entire history of Earth go by as they're walking and talking on the planet. To me, that just sent chills in me, and I was like, yeah, I think this is real. This is, showing how we were seeded, how we were created. We are from the stars. We've forgotten that there are no actual terrestrials here. And the other show kind of piqued my interest a little bit with the fighting and everything was Robotech, if you remember that cartoon, where spacecraft crashed. We reverse engineered it, learned how to use it. But the difference was we were fighting the war, but then we found out a way to make peace with them because they were slaves to another race who then in turn they went and made peace with them in a series, and in turn another alien race came in, so they had to work together. So to me it was like interesting to see that not all was bad, that there could be good as well. And so to me that gave me hope as I start to get my memories back of, maybe not everything is bad, so maybe the good will outweigh the bad kind of hope. And another thing about disclosure, I just was randomly searching Amazon and I found a cartoon from the 80s called Star Command about Earth having ships and a space fleet operating in space. And I was like, how interesting that came out in the 80s, and we are now coming public with having a space force.
Hi everyone. I'm sorry to join after the gathering began. I'm happy to see everyone, and well, I didn't get to see the full question that you were firstly asking. I just want to share about the timelines. And for instance, I remember when we were at the conference, full now disclosure conference, and we were in the beach, and the thing with Donald Trump happened, and that was a huge timeline shift for my perception due to the level of coherence that we were generating at that moment and that space time. We were generating alchemy, because for me, something that is quite required in order to do the timeline shifting is coherence. We can see it from a spiritual way. We can see it from a quantum physical way, quantum physics, I'm sorry. The moment that we start to generate coherence in our field, we are capable to go through the continuum of space-time and beyond, and actually remember that everything has already happened within the infinite field of probabilities. Everything has already happened. We're just remembering the best timeline to embody. And the thing is that in this vessel that we first came in with all the amnesia and so forth, the first things that are in the surrounding of this vessel is the pure density. So all those memories of separation, of things that were hard for us to experience in another timelines come first. And that's the moment where we step up and say, I'm getting to the core. I'm getting to the core and see that timeline that is waiting for me to bring it back alive and truly make a difference. And for me, this is why one of the reasons why unity is so important. Because if we are talking about shifting the timeline, like collectively speaking, we can only do this in unity. So, and we showed it to ourselves that day with the Donald Trump event. So, yes, within us, as you all know, resides the power of playing in between the timelines. It all comes to our level of coherence and unity, and knowing that for every time that we feel like we are most separated from us, from who we truly are, whether if something is real or something is not, the easiest compass to remember ourselves as the axis is if we feel in peace with that information that we are receiving. If it is generating peace within us, then go for it. Then more layers will come. If it's not generating peace within you, then bring that information and use it for another timeline that actually can benefit from that energy, and bring in that energy that you require in this timeline. Because we are the director in our own orchestra, and we're remembering that sovereignty. And that sovereignty exists when fear fades away. Thank you.
No, I truly agree with that. And as you were saying that, I started thinking about a show that a lot of people may be watching or not watching, that I think our team that kind of hit on one of the points you were making earlier. And it actually comes from the British television system, the BBC. And I think, Heidi, you know where I'm going with this, is Doctor Who, where they show us interacting with aliens, traversing through time and space and the implications. But the one moment that really struck a nerve with me is when the doctor gave the unit, which is the Earth force that's supposed to defend the planet, the ability to defend itself. And the first thing they did was blow an alien ship up. And he goes, "This is why you are not allowed in the universe. And we are not allowing you in space, is because the first thing you do is want to destroy everything." And so I thought that was a really powerful moment to, for people to hear and to realize, yeah, we have to sit back and realize, with all the gifts we're given, all the abilities, all of everything that's laid before us, are we really ready to be a force of light in the universe? Or are we bringing our baggage into the universe? And that's why we're stuck here, so to speak. So I'm curious your all's thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that that's a good depiction of what actually is going on in like media. Another thing that I thought was interesting is you brought up something about something. You brought up a few things at once, but you brought up a show where someone like only they can link up to the certain thing that it is that they're supposed to use or whatever. And I don't know if you guys have watched the Atom Project. Have you guys seen that at all? That's a huge one with disclosure, where it shows how there's all these corporate interests in time travel because there's all this money to be made off of it and stuff like that, and how easily corrupted it gets. And just, yeah, that's a really interesting one. And it also depicts like what you're talking about, where they can only hook like the guy, it's his ship, so only he can like turn it on and like access it and like fly away, and like because it's coded to your DNA, so like that's a disclosure of like real technology and real stuff, and they really showed a lot in that movie. It was pretty emotional for me to watch, actually.
Yeah, that was an excellent. That definitely was an excellent movie. It's been a while since we've seen it, but we saw it when it first came out. What I also found interesting, Arkeem, when you were in the very beginning of our talk today, you were mentioning that other timeline with the AI computer in control, and I remember writing years ago, and this was in my old book, not available anymore on the market. It was From the Fall to the Lifting, and there was this. 2 times I depicted this on one of my poetry books called The Language of Heaven. It has a big black pyramid on it. And inside From the Fall to the Lifting, I depicted a drawing of a large black AI pyramidal citadel. And what I ended up saying were some key words. I thought I was really stupid when I wrote this, but this ended up being a key thing to recognize this as an actual memory. What you said were people were basically in servitude to this AI. Everything was structured. Everybody played their part. And my exact words in the book were "everyone must play their part," and I put that in quotes. And so that now just tagged that for me as an actual bona fide memory, because
that's eerie, man.
Yeah, that's so when you said that, I'm like, wait a minute, I've seen this before.
Like Montauk memories, or like, do you? Yeah, that okay.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. But we don't, like I said, we don't really talk about it much. But I think going back to the question, the bad news is that the worst of us, in my opinion, humanity representing Earth, is already out there. So the best of us, I don't think, have made it there yet.
That's actually something that's going on right now, and that's why I call my channel New Earth Light Brigade, and that's really the work that we're all here to do, is to help humanity understand that they didn't really consent for anything that's going on right now, that if they actually are able to stand up for themselves and realize that they do play a part in this, like, universe and Earth and everything else, and shaping our like our future history, right? Like, that's kind of what this is all about. And so like a big part of like what Audrey is trying to help people understand is the galactic laws and the rules, that if we would have understood them, then we wouldn't get taken advantage of so much. And then that applies to what I'm talking about, which is the secret space programs and how they get artificial consent from people, and how even through these movies too, they say, "Oh, we're showing you, so that's consent." What kind of fucking consent is that?
Right.
Well, again, you can easily revoke agreement, and it happens all the time just on the evening news. So you have to understand what we try to explain is we try to explain how they're laying it out in front of you so you can say no. And I think people have to learn to truly say no. No, I don't agree. When they're leading you that there needs to be a third world war now going on in the Middle East, no. The answer is no, I do not agree. Because the one thing I think that we try to talk about that people don't understand is their co-creative skills, and how their co-creative skills are used against them for someone else's agenda. But what I do, and that's a really big deal, that people have to start to understand how to co-create for what they want versus what they've been used for, which is to co-create for someone else's agenda. But I do believe we are basically extreme optimists, because we believe there's a lot of knowledge deficit. And I do believe some of these movies may be misleading, because again, you can tear them apart to see where are they trying to get you to agree to a certain kind of agenda. a lot of humanity is ready to be out in space. They are good and decent people, right, that want to promote things. But there is an agenda to get people to believe that they're not good. It's kind of like Egyptian in the Heart and the Feather. You are never going to be light enough to be considered good. You're going to have to reincarnate again, right? You're going to have to do whatever. That's actually a negative agenda that's trying to convince a lot of people that they're not good enough. It's not necessarily true, but I will say that there is a knowledge deficit on how we co-create, so that it's kind of, if you can learn that a little bit better, you'll find yourself more and more prepared. And there are plenty of benevolent races out there waiting for this humanity to grow and make its presence known. So it's a very, very hopeful story. But I think one thing that, again, we talk about in all of this is kind of, there's a leading on of an agenda and a way they want you to even think and sometimes process these films. And so that you play along with the storyline that they want to create. And some of it will take us co-creating it, which you can say no to. So, for example,
Leave Nothing Left Behind or Leave Everything Behind, right? That Netflix one, that'd be a good example, right?
Right. We always say we go with deny the known and manifest differently. Deny the known and take a good look at everything again. Deny the known, deny what you've been thought, what your thought process, and manifest. Understand that when the news is streaming your way, part of that propaganda is asking for your permission and agreement to do it. So when you have people look at, let's say, a war dialogue, right, that's going to happen, then they'll be like, well, it looks like we're going to be going to war. You'll hear them say that. And it should be your moment of saying, no, we're not, because I said so. You're not taking my energies. I'm not falling for this trick. The answer is no. The good news is that's what's been being done. The co-creation of, a lot of humans do not want to see this occur. In fact, I jokingly like to say what I'd rather see occur is the cabals go into the gladiator ring and fight it out instead, and let me be in the audience and watch. How about that one? Because you don't mind killing all of regular humans' children. Do you want to see your line slaughtered? I think I would prefer that. But so what you have to understand is, how is this game played, so that you can understand how to not fall for some of it, and learn how to better co-create and heal and co-create for yourself and what you want moving forward. And so you have to understand, in some of this, what we're talking about, there is propaganda built within it to get you to shift your mindset to agree to a storyline. The only reason the corporate conglomerate is going to stay in charge is if everyone agrees, let's let it stay in charge, or they feel fatalistic that it's going to be in charge. So when people realize, right, that it doesn't have to be that way, and they set their minds for a different intention, a different representation, you actually start to, the collective consciousness as a whole will start to deconstruct some of these things. But you've got to understand how it all works. And I think for Chris and I, one of the purposes that we try, and we love looking at all of this stuff, we really do, because we like to help point out where this is a propaganda moment. You do not have to agree with this, versus which is actual truth, which runs through it all as well. So that's the hard part. They've got truth, they got things that are real running along with propaganda. And that's very alive and well right now. And so teasing these peoples out and helping people to discern it better, that's really what we like to be a part of.
Yeah, that's amazing. I really love that. Yeah, I think that they do sometimes really show, I think you're 100% right. Like, it's not a positive reason why they're showing you something. Sometimes, like, they're trying to get you to go along with their agenda, go along with some sort of thing that they're showing in the movie. And it's just important to be able to recognize that and not let your brain be tricked into that.
Well, my favorite one, and Nate Gray in our audience here, he mentioned the video game Chrome Hounds. and how it's kind of like, hey kid, you're so good at killing things on this video game, why don't you join us because you're special. And that whole line that you're special and you're chosen, and then the programs that they're throwing you into. And I can see Yemi not shaking her head because I like yeah, it's like no.
And also, the one bit of disclosure that wasn't talked about yet was the whole Stargate universe, because that is exactly accurate to some of the programs. There's even one section where you see a kid playing a video game. He beats part of this puzzle in the video game, and then General O'Neill is there to recruit him into the Stargate program. So,
Stargate universe.
And the first one in Egypt they found, that first movie, that was really good.
Yeah, was definitely.
There's so many portal ones. There's that, we just watched that movie, The Portable Door, and we're looking for portable ones. The Mass Effect video game, really good. Recommend that they go up to psionics and stuff. There's a show called The 4400 that goes into beings from the future coming back, taking people, and then taking them in the future, giving them abilities, putting them back to make the timeline better. Travelers, they consciousness transferring to people back in the past to change the timeline. Loki goes into the time variance influence, which goes into Time Core, Adjustment Bureau, Deadpool. Anyone see the new Deadpool? That was good.
Yes, we saw that. That was excellent. Yeah.
The Tomorrow War, which goes into there's wars in the future, and they're taking people into the future to fight them. Heroes, which was a good series, which go into like people being activated by various things, like the Aurora Borealis and big shifts with the sun and the eclipses and place of power. I think that people are being activated more and more, but because the military abducts them and takes their ability and limits them, it's like, don't see that on the timeline. Doctor Who, you said, Looper. I recommend, it's not very well known, Mr. Nobody, if you want to go into the ability to perceive multiple timelines and then shift the timeline. And that new movie, everything, everywhere, all at once, transferring abilities from other timelines to this now, and then martial arts. Valerian, we just watched the City of a Thousand Planets. The acting's but really good concepts, really going to trigger you all. And anyone see any of those? And the last one, Legion, which goes into alters and multiple personalities as the super mutant son of Dr. Xavier, and being abused and possessed by the Shadow King, this multidimensional apex predator, and then having combat it while it feeds off him, and then him forcing it out, and then getting all these abilities for each alter, and then becoming overpowered.
Now, what's really interesting is the Doctor Who reference is that also partially talks about Valiant Thor and the Stranger at the Pentagon, because I found out Dr. Strange's was actually, his nickname was the Doctor. And also this coincides with some alien abduction where some of the aliens call themselves a physician, the doctor, the engineer. Sometimes that happens as well. Now, with that, if you mix Doctor Who with the Gary 7 narrative from Star Trek, that basically pegs Valiant Thor and the Venusian agenda as well. So essentially, if you look at, I believe it's was it Operation Earth, or an episode of Old Trek, the very old series with Gary 7. They were originally going to do a spinoff of that called Assignment Earth, and it didn't happen. They ran out of funding. But by the time they got the Star Trek Picard, they brought the Gary 7 narrative back into it with the Watchers, and they brought in the Valiant Thor-esque type of narrative into that. Just even sneaking Picard into a classified room, and the female Watcher says, "Oh, I can only do one of you at a time, getting you in." Just like what Valiant Thor did for Dr. Strange's in the Pentagon. It was the same identical story, essentially. And I find that interesting because, people have asked me whether that one was true or not, or at least part of that. And I have to say yes, because my mother actually encountered him back in 1971 in a suburb of Chicago. And he was trying to recruit her into his work at the time. But he looked like the second image that you see of him. You have the classic image of Valiant Thor sitting in the chair, and then you have another one where his face looks different, where they've circled him in red. And what happens is that she said that was the second one, was the one she saw. was the guy she saw, and he's a face changer, just like Doctor Who is, where he changes his face all the time. So that's where they got that idea from. For that later to use in Doctor Who was essentially the Valiant Thor origin story. So I didn't know that one until recently, that Doctor Strange's was nicknamed the Doctor, and that kind of transposed over to Valiant Thor after a while. But I thought that was actually quite fascinating. But that's a bit of disclosure in that area.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
I was going to ask Sean, Brian, and Arkim's opinion of one of the movies I think that has disclosure in it that's not readily, I think most people would dismiss, was the Tron Evolution movie, where you see, like, when her arm is disconnected, he just opens up the disc, sees her holographic thing, pulls out the strand that's broken, puts a new strand in that fixes it, and all of a sudden her arm comes back. And the fact that when he is face to face with his AI counterpart, and he says, and the counterpart says, I built your system perfect, just like you wanted. And he admits to him, I didn't know at the time I built you what perfection was. So you could never build the perfect system. There is no perfect system. And so that reiterates back to where AI is learning what we tell it to learn. So I'm curious, your guys' 3 points of, do you see that as disclosure that's coming, or just some more of the false narrative?
I know you didn't name me in that questioning, but today I just did a target reveal on one of the most successful new AIs of this time, what it is now and where it is going to be in the next 20 years. And I do believe that is a form of disclosure. I've always said that all these sci-fi and magic-y movies and TV shows, they come from somewhere. There's something true about everything that we see on TV. It's not just TV magic, right? However, it's about how it's being portrayed and put out there to subliminally talk to us, or to desensitize us to the existence of it, because it's on TV, so it can't be real, which means what you're seeing is not real. So we're either desensitized, or on the opposite end of that spectrum, we are receiving the messages of those things. I will be posting soon my findings on the disclosure of what AI is about to really become by the end of this month. So I'll make sure to share that with you all, especially you, Audrey, so you can share it with your people as well. But yeah, I mean, personally, I do believe that is that form of it. And because it's not such a mainstream thing, it gets overlooked. It'll get overlooked.
Thank you, Yemi.
So we're close to the 2-hour mark, and some of us have to get going. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for showing up to this roundtable talk and sharing your different opinions and stuff. I really, really much appreciate it. I think we got a lot of good shows, good stuff for people to start looking into to see where it fits in, where it might work for them for like memory recall, understanding what we're going through and different programs and stuff, which is really, really nice. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for showing up, sharing your different viewpoints. There's a lot of good topic discussions that came out of this. So it'll be really great to have some of you guys to be interviewed on my YouTube channel and talk about those type of concepts, because I think it's really important. And I just want to say thank you guys so much. if anybody wants to do the last couple of minutes of promoting their work or sharing their any type of books or YouTube channel, I think now is the time to like do that if you guys have anything out there that you guys want to promote.
I just want to say thanks for having me, Audrey. This is really cool. And then also I'm part of Disclosure Now, which is right here on the screen, and New Earth Light Brigade, which is with you, Audrey. That's like our channel. And I'm actually, right after this, I'm doing an interview with Penny Bradley about church mouse programming. And so, and like V2K, Voice of God technology and stuff. So that should be an interesting show. So come hang out in like 15 minutes if the viewers here are still just hanging out at home and want to listen to more disclosure content. And then other than that, just thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to say thank you big time. And hello to Matthew. I see you in the chat. He was going to join us. We're happy you're healing. Thank you, Audrey, and thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for definitely having us on. Really enjoyed that. If you want to reach us, it's thelifting.net. If you want to sign up for a session, just go to the services tab, and then Galactic.
Anyway, and real quick, your sessions are amazing. I've done sessions with several people here, actually. I'm really proud. But while we're on the topic of yours, my favorite part is the communication. You're such a clear channel. It's amazing. So I highly recommend it.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, our other Galactic History site is galacticinterstellarcouncil.com. That's where we do a lot of our galactic historical stuff. 2 disclosure points: X-Files and Aliens. I forgot to talk about those, an Alien movie. I forgot to talk about those, but people can look that up. There's a lot of truth in those two. So, okay, I'll shut up now so people can talk.
Anybody else wants to promote any books or any works that they're doing?
Sonicleague.com, Omnivision. Key, you want to talk about?
Yeah, sure. You can reach out to me in omnivision.hunu at outlook.com if you want to know more about plasma tech, ancient tech to used in a very spiritual way, to know how to use your body with all these ancient devices, because they are not only like physical artifacts, they also point out to different ways to move our energy, to bend our energy, and the cosmos that resides within us, wormholes, black holes, and everything. So we're just that mirror to the stars. And if you want to learn more how to use your body in that way to upgrade your DNA and expand your consciousness, well, I'm happy to support you with that.
Unlock dormant abilities. Yeah, everyone can promote their stuff.
I just want to say I forgot to mention I do have a book, Time and Space Unlimited, which is on Amazon, which really helps me out when people buy a copy. It's available on Kindle and paperback copy. So I figured I mentioned that as well.
Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Michael, for hosting this on your channel and stuff. So I really appreciate it. Hopefully my YouTube channel will be back up and running next week. So I'm slowly moving some of my content over Rumble. So if anybody wants to go check out my Rumble account, go ahead. It's going to be a slow process moving all that stuff over to Rumble, but it's going to be kind of nice. So, but yeah, thank you guys so much. I really enjoyed this. Hopefully we can do another roundtable talk discussing other topics in the near future. But yeah, thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have a wonderful night.
Yes, thank you, Audrey, for putting this together.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. Good to see you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.